Before 3 years ago, I thought that I was self aware. I thought that I was self reflective. I thought that I was spiritual, and I was. I had spiritual practices. I was really into the mind, understanding the mind, and self reflection and self growth. But I had no idea how much deeper it could get. I had no idea how stagnant I actually was and the levels of awareness that I was missing because I was afraid to see the deepest parts of myself until I was introduced to an alternative spiritual path. And this path demanded accountability and self honesty. It kind of feels like when I was a kid and I was learning how to ride a bike, and I had a really hard time being able to ride a bike. I was afraid of falling, basically. I was afraid I was going to fall and get hurt. And I asked my older brother to help me learn to ride a bike. And he was like, he tricked me. He was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I'm just going to hold on to the back and we're going to push you around for a little bit. And then eventually I'll let go. And I was like the old thing. That's what everybody says and everybody does. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So then he like pushes me to the top of this really steep hill in our yard that's literally facing the road. And there's like a line of pine trees that is like lining the road between our yard and the road. He pushes me to this steep hill and then he literally like pushes me down the hill with force. I was scared, obviously, and I crashed and landed in the pine trees. But before that, I rode the bike for a significant period of time. So, like, I was mad and I was scared, but also I was excited with myself because I actually rode the bike. And that's what this kind of feels like. It feels like I asked for more than I thought I was going to get and kind of got pushed into it. So, going in, I knew that this was going to be more focused on subconscious exploration and healing repressed parts. And I was into that. I thought that was cool. I thought I would be good at it. I thought I'll be really good at this because I do it all the time. So, I start pulling cards and doing meditations. And eventually, I start to what I now describe as like my subconscious speaking to me. It starts to get louder and louder and louder than it ever had been before. And if you don't know the difference between the subconscious and the unconscious is like the fully unknown parts of your brain that your conscious mind does not feel it wants to or can handle, either because it's just too much information or because it doesn't know how to cope or something along those lines. Your conscious mind doesn't want to handle it, so it's completely out of your conscious mind. And if the unconscious is the ocean, the subconscious is the surface of the water. The subconscious is the stuff that starts to kind of poke up from the under the water. Basically, what started to happen is the subconscious thoughts that were really easy to repress before, were really easy to push back down, started to not be so easy to push back down. And I was very resistant to it for months because of the way that it feels. And this is why I was stagnant before, didn't even know I was stagnant, but why I was stagnant is because the parts of the subconscious mind that I was pushing back down are the deepest, darkest parts of the unconscious that I feel if I acknowledge this, it makes me bad. If I acknowledge this, it makes me broken. If I acknowledge this, it feels like it leaves me like naked, vulnerable, and it feels like I will lose myself in this horrible version of myself and everyone will know that I'm horrible and I'm a bad person basically. It feels like I will lose myself to the repressed parts of myself is essentially how it feels and why it feels so scary to actually acknowledge subconscious thoughts that we push down, that we typically repress. But when you start to allow those subconscious thoughts, when I started to allow them to come up, that's when they start to get easier to hear. And it's actually funny because I've been telling people in my life about this for the last few years, and one of them has actually been doing their own work, and they said to me recently, they said my subconscious thoughts are starting to get louder. I said, yes, this is exactly what happens when you start to allow yourself to explore your subconscious thoughts. It will start to get louder and louder and louder. But in the beginning, I still hadn't popped that cherry of being okay with my unconscious mind. So what was happening was my subconscious thoughts were starting to get louder, and I was pushing back. And as hard as I push back, they push back even harder. And what it felt like in the moment is it felt like something was whispering things that weren't true about me, attacking me. It felt like my character was being attacked. Okay. It felt like something was like whispering these insults at me, and I was going, "No, that's not true. Don't put that in my head. Get that out of my head. That's not me. That's somebody else. I'm not that weak person. I'm not that pitiful person. I'm not that bad person. I'm not that, you know what I mean? Like that is not me." And eventually, what happened was I get backed into a corner where I have to acknowledge, no, that actually is my subconscious repressed emotions, thoughts, feelings, etc. And at that point, I have no other choice but to follow my subconscious thoughts into my unconscious mind. So it's usually, and I recommend it to be done in a meditative state. This is basically how I do it, and most intuitives understand this. So I probably don't even need to say this. When you're doing deep, heavy work, best done in a meditative state, because it's going to shut down. From a hypnotherapist perspective, I'll tell you why. Because it's going to shut down your critical conscious parts of your mind, your critical parts of your mind, and it's going to allow you to flow more easily. That doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt. It will still hurt, but you won't have that critical pushback. It'll be more of a flow, and it feels better and it feels easier in a meditative state. I don't know if I could have done this if I hadn't had, like, I set myself up like a meditative retreat when I decided to finally delve into the unconscious parts, like to face them head on. In a meditative state and with various spiritual tools and practices and communication with the divine, I choose to listen to my subconscious thoughts and follow them into my unconscious mind. And basically allow myself to fully experience and fully understand and fully just like acknowledge the unconscious parts of myself that I was not letting myself acknowledge. And this can come through as very intense feelings. It can come through as memories. It can come through as information. Like it can come through, for me, it has come through as simply feelings, as memories, and as like epiphanies of basically like, oh, this makes so much sense about X, Y, and Z when you're in that state. But it's definitely going to have feelings attached to it and pretty intense ones, probably. So the first time this happened to me, the part of unconscious exploration was probably weeks because it was the very first time I had confronted those particular depths of my unconscious mind. And it shook me. I felt isolated and like I felt like I was the worst person in the world. I felt like acknowledging those parts made me uniquely bad somehow. And when I started to come back to just like being a bit more grounded and conscious, when I started to bring these experiences into my conscious reality, which just kind of naturally happened. Once I explored them, they just came back with me. I went through this balancing of like integrating the experience. And by balancing, I mean there were periods that were negative, shame based, like I feel bad, anxiety, fear, self deprecating thoughts, extreme self deprecating thoughts. And then there was empowering moments, blissful epiphanies and clarity, moments where I felt like I was like finally understanding things. And it was just like this back and forth balancing act until it began to be integrated. It also began to change my behavior. And it also did this thing. And this is something I've noticed in general, because I've done this so many times since then that like resisting the unconscious exploration, like resisting it and fighting my subconscious and being like, no, that's not me. Da 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 da. This is somebody else. You're accusing the wrong guy, basically. You got the wrong guy. It's basically like that, like fighting my own subconscious mind thing. That's when my behavior is defensive and erratic. And when I actually allow myself and like do the work of, and this is part of the thing, when the shame comes up, to reprogram, tell yourself like, no, that's not bad. That's like a human experience. It's not bad that this happened. That's You're not the only one. And that's the thing that I end up having to come to terms with. Thankfully, I got a lot of external synchronicities to show me that I am not the only one who struggles. I am not the only one who has these issues. It's all around me. Most people aren't dealing with it. After that first extended period where I had to really come to terms with the fact that it was okay and that I was not the only person who had repressed feelings and emotions and memories and thoughts and etc. Just most people aren't talking about it. Once I came to terms with that, which took weeks, if not months, for me to fully integrate that understanding, I then, it was like it activated my higher mind, my higher self, my spirit's guidance, my soul's guidance. I don't know what to say. It was like it activated, people call it a higher self. I'm just going to call it a higher self. The part of your mind that gives you guidance from a higher perspective. It was like, it feels like looking back, that part was not working before, or not working, but it feels like I was stagnant because of the fact that I wasn't listening to the subconscious repressed issues that I couldn't face, the things about myself I couldn't face, the parts of myself I didn't want to face. Because I wasn't listening to that over and over and over, it created this blockage where I could not hear that my higher self at all. Would I have told you that I couldn't hear my higher self back then? I don't even know that I would have believed or not believed in the concept of a higher self, but like I don't know that I would have said I wasn't listening to my higher self because I wouldn't have even thought about it. It's as if confronting the deeper parts that I was too afraid to confront activated something where my higher self was like, "Okay, cool. Now we can do some work. We can get some stuff done." In order for me to hear the directive of my higher self, I had to go into the depths that I was afraid to go into, that I didn't even honestly, truthfully realize I was afraid until my subconscious started getting a little louder. Once you begin the process of destruction, of tearing down, of deconstructing, of going within and exploring and picking apart the what is you and what is falsely constructed coping mechanisms based off of fear and shame and all this other stuff, it becomes difficult to get out of that and to get into creation. But I am slowly learning how to get into creation mode, how to switch over. Actually, at this point, it's like full force ahead, I think. So, in the next video, I'm going to talk about how to switch that over because the thing is, what it is, it's like a force wakes up. It feels like a force woke up. And that force, it's like the divine energy within you, okay? And that force can be used to destroy and it can be used to create. And it's really easy to get stuck in destroy and tear down because of the fact that, for one thing, we are conditioned to pick ourselves apart and give our creative energy away to others for the system. For another thing, you can literally get addicted to stress chemicals if you are used to stress chemicals, if you are somebody who has had a difficult life, if you are somebody who has had a lot of struggle, you can literally get addicted to stress chemicals. So that is one reason that I think a lot of people get stuck in destruction mode, in tear down mode, and have a hard time switching over. But that force, it's like, it's also confusing because it's going to be hard one way or the other. Like, once that force wakes up, it's going to be like swimming upstream. But it's just a matter of if you're swimming upstream to pick yourself apart or if you're swimming upstream to begin to create. Both are necessary, but it's just like easy to get stuck in the destruct, and never switch over to create. Okay, so that's going to be in the next one.